You wake up at 2 in the morning and stare at the ceiling in the dark. You did not want to wake up, but your body decided it was time to walk down the hall to the bathroom again. You throw the covers back, put your feet on the floor, and make the quiet walk down the hallway. You tell yourself it is just what happens when you get older. You tell yourself that needing to use the bathroom 3 times a night is just the cost of doing business after a certain age. The next afternoon, you are sitting in your favorite chair watching television, and you reach down to untie your shoes. You notice that your socks have left a deep red indentation around your ankles. Your shoes feel a little tighter than they did when you put them on at 8 in the morning. Your ankles look puffy, swollen, heavy. You rub them for a minute, feel the stiffness in the tissue, and you tell yourself that you probably just spent too much time on your feet today. You tell yourself it is just the heat, or just gravity, or just the fact that you are not 35 anymore. A few days later, you use the bathroom and notice that the water in the bowl looks unusually foamy. It looks almost soapy. You flush it away and do not think about it again. You feel a lingering, dull fatigue behind your eyes by 3 in the afternoon, a kind of tiredness that a cup of coffee does not touch. You sit down, you rest, and you chalk it all up to the calendar. You assume these are just the standard, unavoidable terms and conditions of aging. You assume that if anything were truly wrong, there would be a sharp pain, a siren, a blinking red light in your chest telling you to go to the hospital. But the truth is, the body rarely uses sirens when it comes to its most vital systems. It uses whispers. It uses tight shoes. It uses interrupted sleep. It uses afternoon exhaustion. I know this because I ignored those exact whispers for longer than I should have. My name is Harold Bennett. I am 81 years old. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, where the heat demands that you pay attention to your hydration, but where it is also very easy to blame every physical discomfort on the weather. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a time and a place where men did not talk about their health unless they were missing a limb or bleeding visibly. My father spent his entire adult life working on the floor of a manufacturing plant. He was a man who understood machinery perfectly. He knew that if you ignored the grinding sound in a bearing, the whole assembly line would eventually seize up and stop. He knew that preventative maintenance was the only way to keep a factory running, but he never applied that logic to his own physical frame. He ignored the aches, he ignored the swelling, he ignored the fatigue, and he died much earlier than he should have because he thought ignoring a problem was the same thing as being strong. I spent most of my working years in community health education. My job was not to be a doctor, but to translate what the doctors were saying into language that folks like my father could actually understand and use in their kitchens and their living rooms. I spent decades explaining to people how their bodies worked, using metaphors from construction sites, from plumbing, from auto mechanics. I taught people how to take care of themselves. And yet, when I crossed the threshold of my late 70s, I found myself making the exact same excuses I used to warn other people about. After my wife Margaret passed away in 2019, my routines frayed. I was eating mostly out of convenience. I was drinking water, sure, but I was not paying attention to the quiet signals my body was sending me. At 78, my ankles were swelling up over the tops of my socks by the time the evening news came on. I was waking up multiple times in the night. I was tired in a way that sleep did not fix. I thought I was just getting old. But my daughter Laura is a registered nurse up in Phoenix, and she does not let me get away with vague excuses. She came down to visit one Sunday, took one look at my ankles, asked me about my sleep, and told me we were going to the doctor on Monday morning. I told her I felt fine, just a little worn down. She looked at me with that exact same expression her mother used to give me when I was being stubborn, and she said we were going anyway. The blood work and the tests came back, and the doctor sat me down and explained that my kidneys were struggling. They were not failing. I did not need a machine to keep me alive, but they were under severe strain. The doctor explained that my kidney function was declining faster than it should for my age. I was shocked. I had always assumed that kidney problems were a binary situation. I thought you either had healthy kidneys or you were sitting in a clinic hooked up to a dialysis machine 3 days a week. I did not realize there was a vast, quiet middle ground where the damage is accumulating day by day, meal by meal, without you ever feeling a sharp pain in your back. Most people do not understand what the kidneys actually do. We think of them simply as the organs that make urine, but that is like saying a water treatment plant is just a place that makes puddles. Your kidneys are the master filtration system for your entire bloodstream. Every drop of blood in your body passes through your kidneys dozens of times a day. They are constantly separating the good from the bad. They pull out the toxins, the waste products from the food you eat, the excess minerals, and the byproducts of your cellular engine running. They regulate your electrolytes. They help control your blood pressure. They even send signals to your bones to stay strong. Think about the main plumbing stack in a house or the heavy-duty oil filter on a diesel engine. If that filter gets clogged with debris, the oil cannot flow cleanly. The pressure builds up. The engine starts to run hot. It has to work twice as hard to push the fluid through the system. If you do not change the filter, or if you keep dumping dirty oil into the engine, eventually the pressure blows a gasket or the engine seizes entirely. Your kidneys are that filter, and the food you put into your mouth every single day is either helping that filter run clean, or it is dumping thick, gritty debris into the system, forcing those delicate vessels to work under immense crushing strain. When the doctor told me my kidneys were struggling, my first instinct was to ask for a pill. Give me a medication to fix the filter. But Laura sat me down at my own kitchen table and laid it out for me in plain English. She explained that while medication has its place, you cannot medicate your way out of a problem that you are eating your way into. You cannot just flush a clogged pipe with more water if you are still pouring concrete down the drain every afternoon. She told me that if I wanted to pull my kidneys back from the edge, if I wanted to reduce the swelling, sleep through the night, and actually have energy during the day, I had to change the raw materials I was sending through the filter. That conversation changed how I live. It forced me to look at the daily habits I had completely stopped thinking about. I started reading the medical literature again, looking past the complicated jargon to understand the mechanics of kidney function in older adults. I talked extensively with Laura and with my son Daniel, who is a physical therapist in Denver and understands how systemic inflammation limits a person's mobility. I learned that the foods we eat most often, the standard American diet heavy in processed meats, excess sodium, and refined sugars, create a massive workload for the kidneys. The kidneys have to filter out all that excess phosphorus, all that heavy animal protein, all that sodium. Over time, the filter simply wears down. But I also learned the opposite is true. There are foods that actually take the pressure off. Foods that bind to toxins in the digestive tract before they ever reach the bloodstream, meaning the kidneys never even have to deal with them. Foods that reduce the inflammation in those tiny blood vessels. Foods that provide the body with energy and structure without leaving behind a heavy ash of waste products that the kidneys have to haul away. I adopted a specific routine. I changed the way I ate, not by going on some extreme punishing diet, but by bringing 4 specific ordinary foods into my house and making them the foundation of my meals. I want to tell you exactly what they are, why they work, and how they change my numbers, my energy, and my life. Because what nobody tells you is that your kidneys can recover a remarkable amount of efficiency if you just stop hammering them and start supporting them. The first food, the absolute cornerstone of my daily routine, the one thing I eat every single day without fail is beans. I know what you're thinking. Beans are just a cheap side dish. They are what you eat at a summer barbecue. For a long time, the only time I ate beans was when Margaret made her heavy winter chili, loaded with ground beef and bacon grease. But when you are trying to save your kidneys, beans are a completely different tool. Laura brought over 3 cans of black beans, kidney beans, and lentils that first week. She sat them on the counter and told me to look at them not as a side dish, but as the main event. Here is what I did not understand back then. When you eat a heavy steak or a large portion of animal protein, your body breaks it down into amino acids, but it also produces a significant amount of waste, specifically a byproduct called urea, along with heavy loads of phosphorus and potassium. Your kidneys have to work overtime to filter all of that out of your blood. As we age, our kidneys lose some of their filtering capacity naturally. Asking an 80-year-old kidney to process a massive, fatty ribeye is like asking a worn-out water pump to push wet cement through a garden hose. It creates enormous pressure and inflammation. Beans provide you with the protein your body desperately needs to maintain muscle mass, especially after 60, but they do it cleanly. Half a cup of cooked beans gives you 6 to 9 grams of high-quality protein, but without the heavy toxic byproduct load of processed meats. But the real reason beans are the best thing you can do for your kidneys is the fiber. Fiber is the unsung hero of the human body. Think of fiber like a rough, sturdy broom sweeping through the long hallways of your digestive tract. As that fiber moves through your gut, it acts like a sponge. It binds to toxins, it binds to excess cholesterol, it binds to waste products right there in the digestive system, and it carries them out of your body through your bowel movements. Why does that matter for your kidneys? Because every toxin that the fiber sweeps out through the back door is a toxin that does not enter your bloodstream. And if it does not enter your bloodstream, your kidneys do not have to filter it. Eating beans is literally outsourcing the hard labor of detoxification from your kidneys to your gut. You are taking the heavy lifting off the shoulders of your kidneys. Furthermore, beans are incredibly rich in potassium and magnesium. Now, you have to be careful here. If your kidneys are already in end-stage failure, your doctor will tell you to limit potassium because your body cannot clear it. But for those of us trying to protect our kidneys and improve their function, the natural potassium in beans is crucial. It helps balance the fluids in your body and manages your blood pressure. High blood pressure is like taking a pressure washer to the delicate microscopic filters inside your kidneys. It tears them apart over time. The potassium and magnesium in beans help relax the walls of your blood vessels, bringing the pressure down and stopping that internal damage. I started eating half a cup of black beans or lentils every single day for lunch. I mix them with a little brown rice, some olive oil, and some chopped onions. It is simple, it costs pennies, and within 2 weeks of making that one change, I noticed that my shoes were not tight at the end of the day. The swelling in my ankles was receding. The heavy burden on my filtration system was lifting, but beans were only the first step. The second food Laura pushed me to try was something I had spent my entire life avoiding. Tofu. If you had told me 10 years ago that I would be eating tofu on a regular basis, I would have laughed in your face. In Ohio, in the circles I ran in, tofu was considered a strange, tasteless block of rubber meant for people who did not know how to fire up a grill. I was a meat and potatoes man. But when you are staring down the barrel of declining health, your stubbornness has a way of evaporating. Daniel explained it to me over the phone one evening. He said, "Dad, you need protein to keep your legs strong so you don't fall, but we have to get that protein from sources that don't rust out your pipes." The problem with relying entirely on meat and dairy for protein as you get older is the hidden phosphorus. Phosphorus is a mineral that your bones need, but when your kidneys are struggling, they cannot filter out the excess phosphorus effectively. It builds up in your blood. When phosphorus levels get too high, it actually starts pulling calcium out of your bones to balance the chemistry in your bloodstream. It makes your bones brittle and it calcifies your blood vessels. It turns your flexible arteries into rigid, fragile pipes. Tofu is made from soybeans, and it is a brilliant workaround for this problem. It is an excellent source of plant-based protein, providing all the essential amino acids your body needs to repair muscle and keep your energy up. But unlike meat or heavy dairy, it is naturally very low in phosphorus, potassium, and sodium. It provides the building blocks your body requires without the heavy mineral tax that damages the kidneys. I did not know how to eat it at first. It looked like a wet brick. But Laura showed me that tofu has no real taste of its own. It is an empty canvas. It absorbs whatever you put on it. I started cutting firm tofu into cubes, tossing it in a pan with a little olive oil, garlic, and some low-sodium seasoning, and eating it instead of a heavy pork chop or a hamburger patty 2 nights a week. It filled me up, it gave me the energy I needed to walk the neighborhood in the mornings, and it demanded almost nothing from my kidneys. It reduced the chronic invisible inflammation that had been simmering in my body for years. By replacing that heavy animal protein with tofu just a few times a week, I was giving my kidneys a vacation. I was letting the engine cool down. The third food I made a non-negotiable part of my routine is so common, so ordinary that we completely overlook its power. Apples. We are always looking for some exotic, expensive berry from the Amazon rainforest to solve our health problems while walking right past the produce section in our local grocery store. I used to snack on salty crackers or pretzels in the afternoon. I liked the crunch, but every handful of those crackers was driving up my sodium levels, forcing my body to retain water, raising my blood pressure, and forcing my kidneys to strain against the load. I threw the crackers in the garbage and bought a bag of apples. A medium apple is a perfect piece of biological engineering for a person over 60. It is incredibly low in potassium, phosphorus, and sodium. When you eat an apple, your kidneys barely have to register it. It passes through the system without leaving any debris behind. But while it is demanding nothing, it is delivering an enormous amount of value. Apples are packed with a specific type of soluble fiber called pectin. Just like the fiber in beans, this pectin travels through your digestive system, capturing toxins and waste products, escorting them out of your body before they can enter the blood. An apple also gives you a steady, slow release of natural energy without the violent spike in blood sugar that you get from processed snacks. High blood sugar acts like shards of glass inside your blood vessels, scraping and damaging the delicate filters of the kidneys over time. By choosing an apple, you keep the blood sugar stable, which protects the integrity of those vessels. Furthermore, apples are loaded with antioxidants. When your kidneys are under stress, they produce free radicals, which cause cellular damage and chronic inflammation. The antioxidants in an apple act like a fire extinguisher, putting out those microscopic fires in the kidney tissue, allowing the organ to heal and function without the constant burn of inflammation. I now eat one apple every single afternoon. I slice it up, I sit on my porch before the heat of the day really sets in, and I eat it slowly. It is a simple, quiet habit, but half a medium apple only contains about 100 milligrams of potassium and 9 milligrams of phosphorus. It is practically invisible to the kidneys in terms of workload, but massively beneficial in terms of cleaning the system. The fourth and final piece of this routine is yogurt. I used to think of yogurt as just a breakfast food for people who were on a diet. But when I understood the connection between the gut and the kidneys, yogurt became a daily necessity. The human body is not a collection of isolated parts working independently. It is an interconnected system. What happens in the stomach directly affects the strain on the kidneys. If your gut is unhealthy, if the balance of bacteria in your digestive tract is thrown off by years of processed foods and sugar, your gut becomes a factory for toxins. Bad bacteria produce waste products that leak through the intestinal wall and into your bloodstream. Guess who has to clean up that mess? Your kidneys. If your gut is producing a constant stream of toxins, your kidneys are working double shifts just to keep you from being poisoned by your own digestion. Yogurt is the solution to that specific problem. It is packed with probiotics, which are the good beneficial bacteria that your gut needs to function properly. When you eat yogurt, you are sending reinforcements into your digestive tract. These good bacteria overwhelm the bad bacteria. They heal the environment in the gut, drastically reducing the amount of toxins being produced. This means fewer toxins enter the blood, which means your kidneys do not have to work as hard. It is like shutting down a polluted factory upstream so the water treatment plant downstream can finally catch up. I started eating half a cup of plain, non-fat Greek yogurt every morning. You have to be careful with yogurt because the flavored kinds are packed with sugar, which defeats the entire purpose. You want the plain variety. A half cup of plain Greek yogurt gives you a solid 10 grams of protein, a healthy dose of calcium for your bones, and it is generally lower in potassium and phosphorus than regular yogurt. It balances the calcium levels in the blood, it provides B12 for energy, and it fortifies the gut. When I combine these four foods, beans, tofu, apples, and yogurt, something profound happened. It did not happen overnight. This is not a magic trick, but over the course of a few months, the changes were undeniable. The swelling in my ankles disappeared completely. The deep, heavy fatigue that I thought was just a permanent part of being an 80-year-old man lifted. I stopped waking up 3 times a night to use the bathroom. And when I went back to the doctor for my follow-up blood work, my kidney filtration rate had stabilized. The decline had stopped. The doctor looked at the chart, looked at me, and asked me what kind of medication I had ordered from Canada. I told him I just started eating like a man who actually wanted to keep his plumbing in working order. After 60, the small things are what matter most. We spend so much time worrying about the massive heart attacks or the sudden strokes, but we ignore the quiet, daily deterioration of our filtration system until it is too late to fix it. We let the rust accumulate. We let the debris build up in the pipes. We assume that because we cannot feel the kidneys hurting, they must be perfectly fine. But the body does not ask twice in the same way. It gives you whispers. It gives you tight shoes and tired afternoons. Do not wait to feel it before you act. I spent decades of my life eating whatever was convenient, assuming my body would just handle it. I assumed the machinery was invincible. That is something I learned a little too late for myself, but you still have time. You do not have to become a completely different person. You do not have to adopt a miserable, restrictive lifestyle. You just have to make different choices at the grocery store. You have to trade the heavy meats for beans and tofu. You have to trade the salty snacks for an apple. You have to support your system with yogurt. Independence is protected in the small habits. It is not protected by grand gestures or expensive medical procedures once the damage is already done. It is protected by what you put on your plate at noon on a Tuesday. It is protected by understanding that your organs are working hard for you every single second of every single day, and they need you to stop making their job impossible. What you ignore today can limit you tomorrow. You can either feed your body the tools it needs to clean itself, or you can feed it the debris that will eventually shut it down. Your kidneys have carried you this far. They have filtered every drop of blood in your body for decades without ever sending you an invoice. It is time to return the favor. Start tomorrow morning. Buy a can of beans. Buy a bag of apples. Give your filter a chance to breathe. You have the ability to change the trajectory of your health right now in your own kitchen with foods that cost less than a cup of coffee. I am Harold Bennett. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.